Great. So thanks again for joining us today. I'm Mara Herman. I'm the Health Outreach Coordinator here at the Ecology Center, and I'll be your moderator for today. So first things first, here is our webinar agenda. Just a heads up, currently all attendees are in listen-only mode. If at any time during the webinar you have a question, please use the chat box to share it. After our presentation from Sam, we'll have time for questions. So our conflict of interest statement, there are no known or perceived conflicts of interest for the presenters, planners, or content reviewers of this track. And here are our learning objectives for today. After this presentation, you should be able to identify 2 important things to consider when creating your message and identify 2 types of earned media. And with that, I'm excited to introduce our presenter for today. We're lucky enough to be joined by Sam Inglot from Progress, Michigan. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sam, for your presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Mara. Get my screen up. So Mara, is that working? Can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome. All right, so hello everyone, and thank you, Mara, for having me on the webinar today, and thank you to everyone for taking some time out of your day to join us. This is kind of part 1 of a 2-part training. We have the webinar today, and I'll see you all in person on Friday for a more in-depth discussion on some of the things I'll touch on today. Like Mara said, my name is Sam Inglot. I am the Deputy Communications Director at Progress, Michigan. Progress Michigan serves as a communications hub for the progressive community across the state. We are basically a PR and communications firm for the movement. We assist with message building and spokespersons trainings, digital media, that sort of thing. I've been with the organization for roughly 5 years. I have my background is in journalism. I was a reporter for several years in Lansing before I joined Progress, Michigan. So I've got a pretty quick presentation for you all today just to touch on some of the issues that we'll go into more in depth on Friday, and we'll just jump right into it. So on this presentation, we will discuss the media, both different types of media, and the purpose of it for our needs. We'll go over the concept of the elevator pitch, which is a concept that you can kind of find throughout media and communications materials and strategies, and then I will go over press materials, so there's kind of a basic understanding of some of the tools of the trade, if you will. And Mara, are people able to kind of pose questions or anything like that, or do we just want to hold them to the end?
If folks start, turning them in earlier and it makes sense, I can always hop on and share those with you, but otherwise we do have time at the end for questions. Okay,
great. Yeah, we'll just if you got a question, Mara, if there's something that, I trust your judgment on that, just let me know if something pops up that you think I need to clarify in that moment. Happy to do so. So yeah, let's jump right into it here. So the media, a lot of kind of, usually in a group setting, I'll pose this question of what comes to mind when I say the media, and a whole range of answers usually come up. People think, TV news or CNN, social media, newspapers. Some people say fake news, things like that. But for our purposes, what we really want to do is understand that the media is the means by which we can get our message out to the broader public, to influence both the general public, elected officials, folks like that, and shape the narrative around the issues, campaigns, and ideas that we care about and that we work on. And there are 2 different types of media. You have earned media and paid media. And I'll start by talking about earned media. Earned media is what we will be talking to you mostly about and training you about on Friday. Earned media is kind of the traditional idea of what you think when you think of a press conference or a protest or anything like that. It's where you are putting in time and effort to create a media package, put on an event, and then you are asking members of the press from TV, print, radio to come out and cover your event and then publish stories to highlight the issue or the event that you're working on. That's a lot of what Progress Michigan does, and that's a lot of the strategies and tips that we will teach you on Friday, how to interact with the media during earned media type events. And earned media isn't just simply a press event. Sometimes it can be a press release announcing just a happening in your organization that you want people to know about. It might be the press reaching out to you to want to talk about something that you're working on. So again, earned media is just where you are doing kind of physical work, I guess maybe, or digital work, if you will, to get your message out there through the more traditional kind of media. You're allowing those kind of gatekeepers to come in and see what you have to offer and then publish information to get your message out into the public. So that's earned media. Then there's also paid media. Paid media, it's kind of right there in the title. It's the media that you pay for. It's advertising in newspapers, on billboards. It would be yard signs, digital ads through Facebook or any other kind of services. Paid media is just kind of another segment to the overall media strategy, but we like to get these kind of concepts out of the way because you do approach them kind of differently. And where on the earned media side, you have to, there are things like relations with the reporters and making sure that you're covered accurately and making sure that your folks are prepped. Whereas paid media, you kind of have much more control over what you're putting out there. If you are running an ad in a newspaper, the only thing that you really have to worry about are, the dimensions of the ad and making sure that it fits within that publication. Same thing with the billboard or a radio ad. Obviously, there are legal requirements with the type of language and disclaimers and things like that that you need to be cognizant of. But paid media, you have kind of much more direct control over because you're just creating the content and then paying a service provider to put it out there for you in the way that you created it. So that's the difference between earned and paid media. And again, just when we're talking about the media, we're talking about both of those things oftentimes and all of the avenues that we can use to get our message out into the public and shape the narrative around the issues that we're working on. And again, if anybody has questions about anything I just covered, happy to answer it at the end of the presentation. Up next, we've got the elevator pitch. And the elevator pitch is really something, the concept behind it is very kind of foundational to a lot of media work. So what we say about the elevator pitch is that you want to be able to make a short kind of, how do I want to put this? This is kind of the card that you pull out of your back pocket when talking about your issue. It's kind of your go-to sales pitch, if you will, for the issue or the campaign or the idea that you're working on. It's short, usually no more than a few sentences, and it hits on some of the best messages of your issue or your campaign. And I'll kind of talk about talking points and things like that up next, but it's going to feature some of your best talking points. And the idea of an elevator pitch, kind of, if you were, anecdotally, would be that if you were standing on an elevator and somebody got on with you, you would be able to tell them about your issue and why it matters going from floor 1 to floor 2 in that time frame. And an even better elevator pitch, the best elevator pitch that you can have, makes it so somebody gets on with you at floor 1, but they even go past floor 2 with you up to floor 3 because you have such a compelling elevator pitch and they want to hear more about the issue or the idea that you're working on. So again, the elevator pitch is just the best message points of your campaign boiled down into basically no more than a paragraph. And again, the kind of foundational nature of the elevator pitch speaks to a lot of other areas of media relations, of earned media, of spokesperson best practices, because it's short and concise, and it's usually based in values and emotion. We always say that facts and figures are really good to help you make your argument better, but we always want to be trying to frame our issues around an emotional, values-based kind of framework, because ultimately that's how human beings make our decisions and drive actions. We usually make an emotional-based decision and find the facts, figures, statistics to back up what we already believe. But the most effective way to reach people is through that emotional kind of lens. So always be thinking about ways that you can add an emotional angle into your elevator pitch. So that's one kind of foundational element of the elevator pitch that leads into all other media work, the emotional, values-based aspect. The other one is simply the length. An elevator pitch is supposed to be short. Like I said, from floor 1 to floor 2, you should be able to get out what your issue is and why it matters. And that's just not because we like things short. It's because when you have a concise, short statement, you have more control over your message. And we'll go into this a little bit more in terms of interview strategies and spokesperson strategies on Friday. But when your statement is short and concise, you have more control over it. You know exactly what, for example, a reporter could quote you on. If you know that your elevator pitch is no more than a few sentences. If you ramble on for what could amount to paragraphs or pages to answer a question or to talk about your issue, you have less control over your message, because you don't know what could be printed out of your kind of wide-reaching statement. It's better in general to communicate in short, concise sentences. That way you have more control over your message. And again, that just speaks to the foundational kind of nature of an elevator pitch. So an elevator pitch is, one, emotionally based. Facts, figures, those are great. You can pepper some of those in if you want, but always try to aim for that emotional, values-based appeal. And two, it's short and concise. And those are things that really kind of speak to a lot of the message and media materials and best practices that we'll go over in general as well. So that was the elevator pitch. And next up, we've got press materials. And the ones I want to talk about all kind of build on each other. And again, remember those kind of foundational aspects of the elevator pitch of emotion and short and concise. So we're going to talk about talking points, media advisories, press releases, op-eds, and LTEs. These are kind of the physical things that can take your message or your campaign or your issue and get them out into the world. And this is all, most of this is considered earned media. Talking points can help influence your paid media, but media advisories, press releases, op-eds, and LTEs very much fall under earned media, because you have to put in the work to write them, to send them out, to pitch them, to get them placed, that sort of thing. So I will quickly drop my presentation here and pull up an example of some talking points. These are, so basically talking points are and this example is kind of written more like a script than like, for example, the kind of bulleted list of facts and talking points that Mara sent around about, flame retardant materials, utilities, that sort of thing. But talking points are usually no more than a sentence, again, going for that short, concise nature of how we want to message around our issues. It's kind of an all-encompassing script, if you will, for the issue that you want to talk about, or the specific event that you're at. We always write talking points as if it were a script, but really what we want is, we don't want people at a media event to be reading from a script. We'd much rather have people just kind of speaking from the heart, but we write talking points like a script, just in case people get lost or they need to remember the points that they need to hit on. But your talking points should include emotional, or what your issue is about, why it's important and why it matters, any kind of facts that you might want to relate to help strengthen your argument, and then everything, again, should be kind of based in an emotional framework. This is an example of, I think this was about, it was a childhood nutrition assistance or community nutrition assistance, something that we worked back on in 2015. But again, you can kind of just see the format of how talking points work. It's just a bulleted list of the best message points of your campaign. So that's talking points. Media advisories, let me find that. A media advisory is essentially an RSVP to the media for your event. It consists of a basic rundown of what your issue is, and then kind of the 5 W's of your event. Who's participating, what kind of event it is, when it is, where it is, and why it matters. These should be very, again, short and concise. You don't want to bog people down with information on a media advisory. This is just letting people know, hey, or letting reporters know, hey, there's this event going on. Here's what it's about. Here's who will be there, and this is why you should come. A media advisory should be sent out. Usually how we do it is we'll send out a media advisory the day before an event, and we'll just send that out to our press lists. And then we will also send it out the morning of the event. And then we will follow it up with pitch calls. And pitch calls are just where you call the outlet that you sent it to, make sure they got it, see if they have any questions about the event, and then see and try to basically pitch them on your event to show up. Pitch calls are one of those things that sometimes seem like a tedious task, but in an age where we have, newsrooms are facing cuts and shrinking staff, and you're competing for people's attention for your event. So you want to make sure that you are, pitching and making basically a sales pitch for your event. The news has a finite amount of time and staff, and you want them to come and cover your event. So a media advisory is the basis for your pitch call. And I once had an assignment desk editor. I ran into her it was an after show kind of thing, and I introduced myself, and we had never met each other in person. We had only talked on the phone, and I told her, oh, hi, I'm Sam, I'm from Progress, Michigan. I'm the guy that calls you 3 times and sends you to, or I'm the guy that sends you to media advisories and calls you twice. And she said, hey, I would much rather get 3 phone calls and 2 emails than miss one event, because they get, as a former reporter, I can tell you, they get so many press releases every day. Sometimes it's hard to sift through all the noise, and so a phone call, actually speaking to a human being, can go a long way in getting attention and coverage for your event. So again, a media advisory in its most basic form is an RSVP with the 5 W's to the media about what your event is. Up next, we've got press releases. And essentially what a press release is if you had if you could write this story for the reporters, that is what a press release is. It's the story that you want to tell about your event. It should include a rundown of, again, kind of like just like the media advisory, who was there and why it mattered, talking about the policy. It should feature quotes like this from event participants. And oh yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned this with the media advisory. Always have contact information at the top, and usually it's best for these types of things to have one designated media person. That way you have a flow of information that's not getting confused between multiple people. There's just one person in charge of doing that. So again, a press release tells the story from your perspective about what the event was and why it's important. Like I said, you want to include quotes that the media can use about the event, and this is a good place to, for example, here, pepper in some facts about your issue or your event. So yeah, that's basically a press release, and we can kind of go over this as well during the training on Friday. But this is something that you want to print out and have physical copies of if you are having a press event. Provide it to the reporters that show up, and then also send it out to your wider press list as well, because the idea behind a press release is also if a reporter didn't show up to your event, they should be able to write a story as if they were there based on your press release. So this is kind of the follow-up to a media advisory and the press event itself. And then op-eds and LTEs. Op-ed is short for opinion editorial, and LTE is short for letter to the editor. Find where it went. And essentially what this is an op-ed is a way for you to submit an opinion piece to a publication where you can sound off on an issue that you care about. All of these media materials will draw from your talking points. So your media advisory, your press release, your op-eds, and your LTEs should all feature talking points, both emotional, values-based kind of messaging, along with facts, figures, and statistics to strengthen your argument. And this, an op-ed just gets published in a publication like the Detroit News or the Holland Sentinel, the Marquette Mining Journal, to sound off on an issue. These usually range anywhere between 400 and 600 words, and it's something kind of a transactional sort of thing between you and the editorial staff at the publication to see if there are any edits that you need to make to it, for length or content or any clarifying questions that they might have. And each newspaper kind of has its own process for approving and posting op-eds and LTEs. And the best advice that I can give you is, if you would like to place any of these kind of materials with an outlet, is to pick up the phone and make a call so you can understand that process. Because sometimes the email or the email that's provided on the website might just go to some black hole. It's better to just pick up the phone and say, hey, I've got this column about the danger of flame retardant materials or chemicals, and I'd just like to know who I can talk to help place this. And that's usually the best way to go from there. But it's nice because here you just have, you're not having to respond to opposition. You can really work on it to get a good kind of angle and emotional appeal based on your issue, and then you can place it and utilize it in your social media, send it to your funders, and it's just a good way to get your op-eds. And the media events that encompass advisories and press releases are all examples of earned media. And these all kind of build on each other. Again, talking points feed into all these other areas. And just always remember the concepts behind the elevator pitch: short and concise, and values emotionally kind of based materials. And I believe that's it. That's media breakdown, press materials, and the elevator pitch. So that was my kind of quick rundown on some of those areas. Mara, did we have any questions that came up throughout my rambling there?
Thanks so much, Sam. One question is, you did mention the word count for opinion editorials.
Yes.
What about when it comes to letters to the editor?
Yes, thank you. That was something. Letters to the editor are essentially just shorter versions of op-eds. Usually they're around under like 200 words or so. And again, that's one of those things where LTEs and op-eds are under the jurisdiction of individual publications, and they all have different processes. I've seen LTE kind of submission things where it's like, oh, just send an email with the text and the information about the person who wrote it to this email. And then I've also seen online submission forms where fill in the blank and submit this and then see if it runs. Yes, they're just shorter versions of op-eds. The word counts usually vary by publication, and that's why, again, I would suggest just picking up the phone, making a call, talking to an actual human being. Don't rely necessarily on email because, again, small staffs with a lot going on day to day. So sometimes just talking to a person and getting those details from the horse's mouth, so to speak, is the best way to go about it. That way there's less confusion and less work on your part. You know exactly what you have to work with in terms of space and where to send it. Good question.
Great. So while folks are getting their other questions in, Sam, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Progress Michigan and what are some of the issues your organization is currently working on.
Absolutely. So, so I'm the Deputy Communications Director for Progress Michigan. My colleague Denzel McCampbell will be joining me on Friday for the in-person training, and he is the Deputy Communications Director for Engage Michigan. Two sides of the same coin, basically. Progress and Engage Michigan. Progress Michigan is our C4, Engage Michigan is our C3, and we kind of collectively provide media and communications trainings to organizations and groups across the state. That's a big part of what we do. We do spokesperson trainings and Media 101 trainings, which is kind of the combination training that we'll be doing with you fine folks on Friday. We also do digital media trainings, content creation trainings, media relation trainings, and that's just kind of a service that we usually provide free of charge to organizations that represent our values, whether that's promoting public health, holding elected officials accountable, increasing transparency in government, that type of thing. But we also do a lot of issue advocacy. So we promote things like, we've been trying to sound off on the Medicaid work requirements going on in the legislature right now. We do a lot of work around FOIA and ethics and government transparency. We serve as communication roles for campaigns such as Earned Paid Sick Time and the Minimum Wage campaign. So we're kind of unique from a lot of other organizations in the state that might solely focus on the environment or reproductive rights or workers' rights or workplace safety, and we cover everything under that umbrella. So we are very issue diverse, and we are also unique in that we are solely focused on communications work. So we have, that's kind of our area of expertise: PR, communications, message development, spokespersons trainings, and digital media. So that's kind of a 10,000 foot view of some of the issues that we and areas that we work on.
Awesome, definitely keeps you busy for sure. So our next question is kind of a two-parter, and Sam, I can kind of help out with the first part of this. It has to do with the structure for our in-person media day and what exactly that we want folks to have ready and prepared for Friday. So Sam went over the basics and logistics of what an elevator pitch is and what needs to be included in that. Your homework to complete for our Friday in-person training is to create your own elevator pitch. Now, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, these only have to be draft form. They don't have to be like the best elevator pitch you've ever seen before, right?
Correct, yeah. And so here's what we're gonna do. So on Friday, we're gonna go over a lot of, we'll probably recover some of the stuff that I talked about here today briefly, going in depth on a few other things. But really what we want to do is we want to make you all comfortable being spokespeople for your issue. And so, yes, drafting an elevator pitch around one of the issues that you're working on. And again, draft form is absolutely fine because we're going to go over them as a group in small groups and work together on them, because we want you to be able to be, at least have some kind of starting foundation for practicing media interviews, which is something we're going to do as well. We're going to do some, fake on-camera interviews, radio interviews, in-person interviews, to get you guys used to some of the ways that you can, some of the best practices for doing interviews, and starting kind of at the base of having a strong elevator pitch will help, so everyone's not coming in, completely cold.
Great. And just to go off on that a little bit more in depth with that, we do have a couple examples with some talking points that can kind of be the basis for your draft elevator pitches. So it's not really coming and starting completely from scratch. We do have some of the issue areas that we've already been discussing throughout the fellowship program, along with some talking points, so that way you're able to kind of use that to create your message. And then another question pertaining to media training day. Sam, this is something that I always get wrong. What is it best to wear when you're going to be on camera, so that way fellows know what type of thing they should be wearing for in-person on Friday?
Yes, so this is one of the little nitty-gritty things that we like to get into at this training. And yeah, so what to wear? I would say, so for this training, it's not necessary for you to be, media ready in terms of your dress, but I'll just kind of tell you what we generally say is, one, you want to be comfortable when you're doing interviews, especially if you're doing anything where there's a visual component to it, whether that's on camera, pre-recorded at an event, or doing some kind of live interview on like a Fox 2's kind of like Let It Rip. You want to be comfortable because, I mean, essentially you are, you're performing, you're out there doing a thing. And so you want to be comfortable and you want to feel confident. So what we always tell people is when thinking about what to wear on camera, think of what you are most comfortable wearing. And other than like sweatpants and a sweatshirt. But if you like to wear, if you're like a jeans and t-shirt kind of person, what we always say is take what you're comfortable wearing and then go kind of one step up in class from that. So like business casual is very appropriate, obviously not like a ball gown or a tuxedo or anything like that. But kind of a business casual, business professional is always appropriate for going on TV. Or doing any type of thing like that. Now, granted, that could change a little bit if you're out doing an event in the community where it's a 5K kind of fundraiser or something like that, and you've got an event T-shirt or something like that that you're wearing. Like that would be fine too. But in a professional, political, or policy kind of setting, it's important for people to, if they're seeing you on TV, to take you seriously. And people very much, they will tune you out quickly if they look at you and they don't think you can they can take you seriously. So, business casual, business professional is usually a safe bet. And then from there on Friday, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about some of the nuances of what to wear on camera or in studio.
Great, thank you. Another question, you talked about if you're trying to get reporters out to an event, or if you're trying to pitch an op-ed, the best way to do it is actually calling. Mm-hmm. Can you give any tips on what you should say when you actually give them a ring, and what you should be talking to them about?
Yeah, definitely. So if you were, we'll say you've got a media event, right? So first thing you're going to want to see is if your media advisory actually got to them. So at Progress Michigan, we have curated our own kind of press list, and we know who's on it and who's not. But you always want to ask, did you get this media advisory when you call? And actually, I'm going to back it up. One, let's say I'm calling WLNS here in Lansing. If you don't know the direct person to call, you just want to call the station and ask for the newsroom or the news desk, and then they will forward you to there. And then you'll get an assignment editor. And from there, you want to introduce yourself, say your name and the organization that you're calling from, and why you're calling. Hi, my name is Sam Inglot. I'm with Progress Michigan. I just wanted to call and make sure that you all got our media advisory about the new ethics law press conference that we're putting on this afternoon. And they'll say either they saw it or they didn't see it. If they didn't see it or they don't have it for whatever reason, or if it's just lost somewhere in their inbox, always offer to resend it kind of in that moment so they can see it. But you should basically know the 5 W's of your event and kind of have a sales pitch, so to speak, if to try to convince them to come to your event. So if we were doing an ethics law one, I might say, and then they're like, oh, I don't know, we're pretty busy today, not sure if we're going to making it out. I'll say, okay, I understand you guys are stretched thin. I really think that this is an important event that you all should come to because Michigan ranks at the worst in the country when it comes to ethics and transparency laws, and we believe that this is a bill package that can help kind of turn that around, and we just think it's something that your viewers would be very interested in knowing about. So you kind of have to put on your sales cap a little bit to pitch your event to have it so they come out. And then obviously you want to say, oh, here's my phone number. Feel free to contact me if you got any questions. And if you're not able to make it out, I'll make sure that you get the press release in case you'd like to do some sort of follow-up. In terms of op-eds, it's kind of the same thing. If I've got I might pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this is Sam with Progress Michigan. I've got this op-ed about new ethics and transparency laws that I would like to place with the paper. Who should I talk to about that? And then from there, you can just have a frank discussion about here's what it is. I'd like to place it. What's the process for doing that? Do you guys have a word limit? And going from there.
All right, so our next question is, when you are interacting verbally with the media, how do you maintain a line between representing the organization and expressing personal opinions, particularly if you are asked questions about issues that aren't in your talking points?
So I think that's something that I might want to leave for Friday, so we can go into a little bit more in depth. But if you are, there definitely needs to be a clear delineation between who you're representing at an event. I'm never representing just Sam Inglot at a Progress Michigan event. I'm always Sam Inglot, Deputy Communications Director of Progress Michigan. Now, I have participated in press events outside of Progress Michigan where I've represented, myself as Sam Inglot, Lansing resident. And for my purposes, because I work so much with the media, I'm always very clear on that prior to any interview, who I'm representing. So that's just something that you need to kind of be able to walk that line and make it clear with the reporter, who you're representing and who you're not. And and we'll talk about some strategies on how you can answer questions or pivot to other areas if you get asked a question that's not in your talking points. Was that all the questions? Did I hit on everything there?
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay. And it kind of is a great way to just follow up with, we'll be talking more about this on Friday at our in-person media training. But with that, Sam, those are all the questions we have for you. Thank you so much for taking the time, for hopping on and presenting for us today, and we're really excited to see you on Friday in person.
Likewise, I always look forward to this training every year. So I would just, encourage folks, we're going to try to put you outside your comfort zone a little bit. And it's going to be a good opportunity to learn and grow on this because, like I always say, doing media relations, being a spokesperson, speaking publicly about your issue is kind of like any other craft, whether it's ice skating or woodworking or hang gliding, it all takes practice. And so hopefully what we can do on Friday is we can give you all a solid foundation of understanding, the media and the role it plays in your work and how to kind of interact with it, and then some best practices for going out there and talking about your issue and being the best representative you can be for your organizations, your issues, and your campaigns. And we'll have some fun doing it.
Yeah, I will say that your presentations are usually a fan favorite for fellows. So really excited to have you back again this year. Thank you again for taking the time for presenting today, and we will see you on Friday.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mara, and good questions from everyone, and thanks for taking the time, and I'll see you on Friday.
Wonderful. And so with that, we're going to wrap up today's webinar. Just a few quick little housekeeping things before we close for today. I have just chatted out the evaluation link. This is required for all Health Leaders Fellows. And for those of you who are not fellows, we still really do value your feedback. It helps us learn what are some of the other interests that you have and helps us determine what are some other webinars that we can provide for you. And then lastly, we've mentioned it a few times, our next meeting is taking place this Friday. It's our media training part 2. So we'll be meeting here at the Ann Arbor Ecology Center office at 10 a.m. Please be sure to confirm your attendance with myself. My email is up on the screen right there. I'm also chatting it out in the chat box now. And so that way we know who will be in attendance for that day. But with that, thank you again for joining today's webinar. You'll be receiving an email from myself later today that will include today's recording along with some example elevator pitches and talking points that will help you create your own elevator pitches for Friday. And with that, thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.